Okay. So we should be good. How are you?
Good. Love it, dude. I'm doing good. Just getting it done, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
There is, I will let you know there's some sort of major electricity construction happening right outside the window, so hopefully my lab is like good enough to cut some of that stuff out. But if things go south in the middle of this interview for like the 6th time, I'm sorry.
Right. It's all good. Electrical construction, huh?
Right, something like that. I mean, it's an electrical vehicle.
Okay.
But yeah. No, stuff's good, man. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm researching storage options at the moment. I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday, but that power outage. I have a 10 terabyte external drive that like my whole life is on.
No.
Yeah. And it's got a regular USB-C port and it's got 2 Thunderbolt ports. Like they're stackable. So the goal was to like get one and then just over time add on. I can stack up to like 5 of them.
Okay.
The power outage fried the Thunderbolt ports.
So the drive is still there.
The drive is still
works.
there, and the regular USB-C port still connects to my computer, but I've now gone from 20 gigabytes per second to 5 gigabytes per second.
Dude. You need, storage stuff just terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like everything, that just terrifies me because, I just like, I have this like major fear of like losing something that I need in the future. And like, stuff getting fried and stuff like that. Like, oh my goodness, that's terrible. So are you looking at RAID stuff? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so most of my stuff is backed up. I've got unlimited storage on Google Drive, so most of my stuff is already backed up there. But yeah, I'm looking at a NAS actually. I'm looking
good.
at Synology. So
Awesome.
but like
That's
the minimum
way.
the minimum of what I need is like a little over $1,000, and I'm like,
Okay. It's
I'm
just
trying
a
to
lot.
I'm trying to get ready to move.
Yeah. It's worth it though, man. Like that's totally worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be picking one up. I got this annual contract with that's basically paying me a full-time salary. So
Yeah. Awesome.
I'll be able to afford it. And
Yep.
for now, I'm just crawling along very paranoid on my external drive, which is just
Gotcha. Yeah.
so
Hey, sometimes when you talk loud, it sounds like it's peaking a little bit for me. I just want to
Is
make
it
sure
peaking?
that it's not peaking in your recording.
it won't be peaking in my recording.
Okay,
It
cool.
might peak on
Yep.
here, but I can actually fix that. Does that sound better?
I'm not sure. You're not
It's
yelling,
fine.
but
I'm
yes.
I'm not yelling. Yay.
No, that's already better. Yep.
Okay, cool. Good deal. Yeah, I've got everything running through the ATEM Mini, so I can control the Zoom volume separately from the recording volume.
Sick.
All right, cool. So now it's time to act like I don't already know the answers to all these questions.
Freelance, baby. Let's talk about it for the first time.
Let's talk about it for the first time again. All right, so things I know about you. You did go to school and you learned video in school after doing the whole skateboarding videos like so many of us do,
Yep,
which
yep.
is awesome. And right after college, you started doing freelance work, mostly weddings, right?
Right.
And then somewhere along the way, you jumped from doing weddings to corporate stuff. Actually, you did like your first corporate job was something that you had no idea what to do. Could you talk a little bit about that project?
Yeah. The very first like kind of right. Like, I mean, it was a nonprofit, but like commercial video that I did was this animation. But I mean, like like digital animation. They wanted the entire video to just be like basically animated infographics, all done in Adobe After Effects. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I didn't know how to do that at all. So it was a lot of just look something up, figure out how to do something, implement that in the project, look something up, figure out how to do the next thing, put that in, and just a lot of iteration and learning on the fly. But it ended up a piece that I was pretty proud of.
I feel like you just kind of described most of my career in video with that
Right.
one story, the
Right.
whole, step 1, say yes to the job. Step 2, figure out how to do it.
Right. And I mean,
I said, the first time I did that, I said yes to an entire episode of a TV show.
Wow.
So that
Yeah.
was that was all shot on a $600 DSLR in auto settings. So
Right.
that was, and I
just getting
edited
it done.
it. So that was, yeah,
Right.
that was fun.
I think it's really funny, like, there's like two camps on this when it comes to freelance of like, should you say yes to stuff that you're not 100% sure you can do? And I always
Right.
say you have to be pretty sure that you're going to be able to get it done. So you just don't end up like completely messing up. But the crazy thing is that like so many of us, like you just said, get in our first paid stuff that we do is weddings. And like weddings, a commercial job, commercial video, like worst case scenario, you could always be like, I'm sorry, I wasted your time. Here's your money back. I can't do this. A wedding, when you go into a wedding and you're not 100% sure you can do it, which by the way is like how everybody gets into it. There's no like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't do a great job. Get somebody else to do it. Like it's done. It happened.
It's
I just
right.
think that's
You can't get married
crazy.
again. Yeah. I'm sorry. Can we
Right.
just go back and redo
There
the
was
ceremony?
actually, so I did wedding photos for a little bit, and there was actually a time when I think someone stood up in front of me right as the couple was about to kiss, and like I legit just like missed the kiss. And
Oh, no.
that's like one of the photos that you need to give to
Right.
the couple. And
Yeah.
so afterwards I walked up to them and I was like, hey, just come up here at the altar again. Like, let me get a good kissing shot. Your kiss, I'm not sure if Amber got it because Amber was second shooting with me. Anyway, they were totally fine. It all is okay. It's all, and like that's weddings though. That's why there's such a learning experience because like anything that can happen will, and you got to figure out how to roll with it as a,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was actually, it wasn't me. It was Arian was just editing some wedding photos that her mom took for like a friend's wedding, like free thing, doing a favor, whatever. But she got to the photo where the ring was being put on the finger, and the ring was completely out of focus. Like the whole I was like, oh no,
All of it.
oh no.
Yeah, it just is what it is, It's just like that's in
It
a
happens.
sense it's part of the beauty of like of real-time documentation. It's like there's something beautiful. There's something artistic in there, You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Life is a blur. Life is a blur, as they say.
Yes, yes, it is. So would you say then that like when it comes to doing freelance work, that being able to learn how to do it is more important than actually knowing how to do it before going into it?
100%, but that's also how like I approach all of my life. So, there's probably people who would disagree with me, but in my opinion, like critical thinking skills, the ability to think on your feet, the ability to communicate and negotiate and basically just problem solve is all that matters. Like in any freelance endeavor you would take, but 100% in photo and video, you can learn how to do anything with enough time and enough focus, which like, time and focus aren't unlimited, infinite resources, but for the most part, like if you have a good feeling in your gut that you're going to be able to do whatever the thing is, but you're leaving 40% of it up to, I'm going to learn to do that on the fly. Yeah, I think there's a good chance you're going to be able to get it done.
Nice. And we'll dive into pricing deeper a little bit later. But
Cool.
Does your pre-existing, I feel like the answer to this is yes, but does your pre-existing knowledge of how to do something that you've been hired to do, does that affect your pricing when you deliver a price, or is does that not really affect it at all?
I mean, it's sort of yes and no. So it's like generally you're gonna underprice a project if you don't know how to do it, because you don't realize the amount of expertise and specialty needed in order to do the thing.
Right.
Which is like a big reason that for the first 4 years of me freelancing and owning a video production company, our prices were like constantly rising. It wasn't because we were just like, oh, we want to make more money. It's because you realize, okay, this takes more time, effort, knowledge, whatever, than I realized it did. This is like a Dunning-Kruger effect where you don't realize you don't know what you don't know. And so once you figure it out, you're like, oh, that's like highly specialized skill, So
Right.
Generally you're going to underprice. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to underprice. So the argument would be then, well, but that's good because you don't know what you're doing. But like in my mind, the plan is never to deliver a final product where it seems like I didn't know what I was doing. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to take the effort to get there eventually, you know? So it really all kind of boils down to like your prices should always be higher, regardless of whether you know or you don't know what you're doing. If you're committed to delivering an amazing product, your prices should always be higher.
Right, because I mean, ultimately, what you're charging for is the end result.
That's all that you're charging for, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned the production company, and I actually wanted to learn a little bit more about kind of the how and why of going from doing freelance work to actually forming like an official, production company with multiple people. How did that happen? Why did that happen? Like, why did you decide to kind of leave the freelance, the world of freelance for actually a more, for lack of better words, official setting?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of different factors that played a role in that. One of the most basic ones is like, it just seemed like the logical next step. It seemed like, I want to grow, I want to be bigger, building a team and having a company, that all seems like something that is the logical next step for what I'm doing in my career. Like, is that a good reason? No, not at all. But that was probably one of the most foundational ones. Secondly, I have, even to this day, a big issue with like executive function and doing what I want to do and ADHD. And so in my mind, I was thinking like, if I have business partners, they'll be this like built-in level of accountability where it's gonna be easier for me to get stuff done and get motivated and stuff, because I'll have these people who are counting on me, who are part of the business, who know what's going on and are in it and are kind of pushing and pressing. And then the third reason is, and this is a wrong assumption, but kind of right in the same way, like when you're by yourself solo and you're a freelancer and you don't really know all that you're capable of yet, you have this idea in your mind where like, I need more people in order to take on bigger projects, in order to be seen as more legit in the space. The reason I know, like in hindsight, that's not true is because, since selling the company and going back to just solo freelance, I've gotten much bigger projects than, some of the projects that we had in the production company. I have the knowledge and ability to take them on and do them well now as a freelancer. So I know that I didn't need to have a production company in order to be able to take on bigger, better, cooler stuff. But there was this like mental hurdle that I had to overcome, and that having the business helped me overcome to get me to the level where I have that understanding. So long answer to your question, but those are some of the reasons.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know what I was going to say. Bloopers. So let's fast forward a little bit, because you had the production company. You started a daily vlog to kind of showcase the life of somebody who ran a production company. Actually, first, let's backtrack. Your role in the production company was actually more of like, you were the pitch guy, you were the sales guy. And I know that we're talking about the production company, but I feel like maybe the process of getting leads and making sales is fairly similar. So let's just bring this up now, because a lot of people talk about sales. How do I land the client? How do I land the client? But there's this whole side, like this whole thing that happens before that, which is getting the lead. How did you find those leads in the production company? Were they inbound? Were they outbound? And how did you kind of work in that? Because I know that was mostly your realm.
Yeah. So when it started out, when the company started, for like, I'd say even the first 3 years, I wasn't, my main role wasn't the sales, like marketing,
Oh, really?
My main role was shooting, editing, everything. We really ran it like, all of us were doing all of the things. And
okay.
So in the beginning, I would go to networking events. We would try to get ourselves out there on social media, though that didn't ever seem super successful. We would just try to be the person that someone would come to if they ever needed a video. But the majority of our work came through basically word of mouth, where like, we were trying to be on the forefront of people's minds, and we would finally get a client or a project, and then that person would refer us to one of their people, 6 months down the road, who also needed a video, and we'd get a call from that. So yeah, especially in the beginning, it was really like, who do you know? Who can you talk to that you actually know who might need a video, and then building on those connections and relationships. And it's amazing how, like, even to this day, even on YouTube, even YouTube sponsorships, like, so much of it is still what conversations are you in? What conferences have you gone to where you got introduced to this person who then introduces you to this brand, and now you have a contract with them or whatever. So yeah, a lot of word of mouth, a lot of referrals, a lot of just trying to get our work and ourselves in front of people who might need our services.
And that actually kind of, as you were talking about that, I was thinking like another part of that, because you were saying being on the forefront of people's minds, is wanting to do the best job possible for every single client, because you never know which client is going to refer you to your next job. And I know for me, whether it was an editing thing or even back when I was doing, freelance electrical work before I even got into video, there were definitely jobs that I was like, I just want to do it and get out. I don't care about this job. There are other things I'd rather be doing, but I needed to attack every single job, with the same level of importance, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, because even those customers that gave me those jobs that I absolutely hated, that I didn't want to do, ended up being some of my best refers and brought me the most work.
Totally. And it's hard to do, especially if you feel like you're not getting the level of communication or the level of commitment from the client or the level of buy-in from them as you would need to be able to make this piece the best you could make it. And like, there's a lot of stuff that makes that really hard. But yeah, that's always in the back of your mind of like, I want this to be as good as it possibly can be so I can get more stuff that's like this or that's better than this, where I am going to be able to work with a client who's going to give me all those things that I want, including the money. So yeah, always needing to make everything as good as you possibly can. And if you physically can't do it because the client is restricting you, then making your own stuff that like lives on your own channel or is for your own company that really showcases what you're capable of and what you want to do more of. I'm a huge advocate of that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit, because I know a lot of people are confused as to actually how to get started. But first let's move on down the timeline a little bit, because you like I said, you started that daily vlog, and part of the reason of that was to kind of showcase what it's like to have a video production company. The YouTube channel blew up very, very quickly. It seemed like a lot of things happened in just rapid succession. Yeah. And then you ended the daily vlog. You fulfilled that commitment, 1 year of daily vlogs, which
right.
I don't know how you did that, but I tried doing the daily thing, and I couldn't. Like, I make it a month and I'm like, this is too much. But right. You ended that, and shortly after that, at least from what I've noticed, it seemed like shortly after that you started taking on more freelance work. How big of a role? I'm imagining it was pretty big, but like I imagine you learned a lot running the video production company, which by this point you had been bought out of and you no longer had the video production company. But you said earlier that starting that video production company and being a part of that got you over a lot of the mental hurdles that you had prior. So how did you kind of go into doing freelance work differently this time around?
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest piece is just knowing the value, of the service that you're offering in creating a video. And like, when I started out and I was a freelancer, I'm like, yeah, I make videos. I'll charge you for this video that I'm making. But right. Going into it as the previous owner of a video production company, it's like, okay, let me line item this out for you. Like pre-production, location scouting. We're going to hire talent, even if the talent is myself or even, like just all of the pieces. Then we're going to, there's the day rate for the actual capturing of it. Now there is post-production, and then there's the amount of revisions that are going to come after post-production. And then what are you going to do with it? Where's it going to live? Is it going to be like paid advertising? Just knowing all of the pieces of it and being able to kind of think about how much you're truly offering, even as a solo freelance video creator, really made the pricing all make a lot more sense in my head. And I started charging enough to help get me the type of clients who were going to give me this sort of communication and creative buy-in that I needed in order to do projects that were like fulfilling, you know?
Right.
So just an understanding of the value of it, I think, is the main thing. And also just a level of professionalism, you know, that came from having owned a business and just how to talk about it. Like when you're in an industry for 5 or 6 or 7 years, you just have an understanding of it that you don't have when you first get into it. So it comes more naturally, you know? And I think those two things.
Now, it sounded like you just basically explained the inner workings of my brain when I'm pricing out a brand deal.
Yeah,
is
right.
it similar to like pricing out a sponsorship for something?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're the same thing. They're totally the same thing. It's just, you know, one is gonna live on your channel and one's gonna live on theirs. You know, freelance video is gonna be on their channels and a sponsor video is gonna be on yours. So how does that value break down in your head, and how does the fact that this piece of sponsored content is gonna live on your channel and have your endorsement on it for some amount of time, how much more value, you know, how much more money do you need in order to make that make sense in your head? So yeah, they're all just the same thing. It's the same way to think about it. It's just two different channels.
I think we basically just accidentally talked about pricing there.
Yeah,
and all the things that,
Awesome.
that we need to take into account. So yay for that. I'm a very informal interviewer.
That's good. I love conversation stuff like this.
So you're doing mostly, or is it all commercial work now, or is it mostly commercial work? I know you were doing at least one wedding because I helped you a little bit with it. But is that is that like it? Are you purely commercial work other than that?
Yeah, I mean, so I did a wedding, basically like a brother of a friend from college was like, hey, would you do it? I was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. I'll give it a shot. It's like my first wedding in 4 years or something like that.
Right.
And it was fun, but yeah, I don't do weddings anymore. So yeah, what I primarily do is freelance stuff and then, you know, brand sponsored like creator stuff, in order to make money.
Nice. Can we, what was I going to say? Man, my brain is just not there today. I had like the perfect question right there just a second ago. But I can't remember what it was. It had to do with doing commercial work and brand work. It'll come
back. In the middle of, yeah. And you
in the middle of something, I'll be like,
right.
Wait, yeah, exactly.
Right.
I remember now. You have a specialty. You have a specialty, something that you've talked about a lot on your YouTube channel, and now it's kind of your bread and butter when it comes to doing freelance work, and that's vlog style video for businesses, which I think is absolute genius and is probably the only type of freelance work I would ever do behind a camera. But can you talk a little bit about how that works and what that looks like? Like I'm kind of imagining a documentary, but like maybe a little bit less structured. How does that, first of all, how do you get jobs like that? Like, is that all through kind of production companies that are doing other stuff? Are you actually going behind the scenes at other types of businesses? What's the, explain the whole vlog style video for business thing.
I think the best way to explain like what vlog style video for business is, as opposed to just like regular commercial video for business, is like people actually contact me and like ask for it. And they're like, Cody, we want a video, but we want it to be like the videos that you make. Like we don't want it to be stuffy like the normal videos in our industry. That's like, I've heard that numerous times. I actually just got a contract yesterday for one of my friends who owns a business, and he those were like his exact words. I don't want it to be stuffy like the other videos in the financial industry. I want it to be like the videos that you make. And so like, even though people can't, you know, people outside the industry can't put like a finger on what that is, a vlog style video for business is like fairly real fairly transparent, comfortable, maybe kind of playful. Like it gives you this feeling like we're getting a look inside who this company actually is, who the people who actually work here, who they are, what they do, and how it feels to work alongside this company. Like that's a vlog style video for a business, as opposed to let's get a teleprompter, let's write out a script of, putting our best foot forward. A vlog style video for business is like TikTok compared to Instagram, right?
Okay.
Whereas like Instagram is like, okay, we're on a beach and we have margaritas and we're living the best life, right? Whereas like
right.
that's what you put on Instagram. TikTok, you're like, there's sand in my toes and in my bathing suit, and like I gotta go take a shower because you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
TikTok is like the real thing, and Instagram is like this fabricated thing that you're trying to put out in the world. And more companies wanted to showcase like, yeah, we're actually real people too. That's what vlog style video for business is. So yeah, it does have a bit of that documentary feel. Like I said, it's playful, it's real. Maybe there's some more camera movement. It's not nearly as scripted. It's getting the point across without forcing some perspective on the viewer. And it's giving them something, giving the viewer something that is a bit more authentic feeling.
Right. Is there a lot of directing that goes along with that? I almost feel like it would be anti-directing. Especially with somebody in the financial district who's used to the stuffy like business first suit and tie type of thing. Like you kind of do you feel like you have to remind people like this isn't that, just be you?
You do. And so it's funny because in a sense then there's like a lot of directing that goes into making something feel like it's not directed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like and really what it comes down to is trying to make people be themselves and be comfortable and come across the way that communicates who they really are. And that is not easy to do. Like for me, my first 100 vlogs, when I watch them back, I'm like super cringe. Like that doesn't seem like me. That's not, I'm uncomfortable on camera, and what's coming across isn't what I meant to come across, So to try to coach somebody or direct somebody to be able to do that, in a half-day shoot is extremely hard. But I do think it comes with a bit of the territory of like, I understand vlogging. I understand some of the mental hurdles and tricks that I had to jump through in order to start to come across more naturally on camera. And so to try to convey that to a business owner or the employees at the business that I'm working with, that definitely helps a lot. But yeah, there's still a lot of directing that goes into making something feel not directed.
Yeah. Do you have any tips because I know this is a huge hurdle for people, and it's something that I hear a lot, whether we're talking about vlog style or just filming an official interview or anything. One of the hardest, even for photographers, one of the hardest things to do is make the client or the talent or whoever it is feel comfortable in front of a camera. Do you have any tips for doing that?
Trying to just be as like real and open and honest as possible, I think is good. Spending time with your whoever's on camera, spending time with them when they're off camera, like trying to get to know them and be with them and try to get a sense for yourself of who they really are and what they're really like, I think is definitely helpful. I think the other thing is like if you're able to set up kind of the environment in a way where it's like, we're not gonna always nail stuff on the first shot. It's gonna be a process of like trying to be comfortable with each other and the camera. And that is not going to be easy. So like, let's just try to throw caution to the wind and have a fun time with this and not be so concerned about getting it right. Those are some of like the tactics and techniques that I use when I'm talking to people, trying to get them to be more natural, more comfortable on camera. The other thing is saying like, when I do it, when I'm on camera, and then showing them yourself or showing them something that you've done where you were on camera. And just that even helps build the connection of like, okay, this person knows how this feels. and builds that trust. So yeah, it's not easy, but those are some of the techniques that I try to use.
Do you find that I guess the sales process can have an effect on that? Like I found, at least with any freelance work that I've done, the more natural, the more open, the more, I guess, fun and lighthearted the sales process is, the more kind of natural and more comfortable it is to work with the client once the work actually starts. Is that something that you've experienced as well?
Yeah, I think, at that point it might be going beyond sales and more into like pre-production, like the pre-production meetings. But yeah, I mean, I do think you can get a good sense of what it's going to be like to work with somebody, like before you've even had them sign on the dotted line.
Nice. Yeah. It's always been my experience is the more natural you can be before the actual production starts, the easier the production goes. And that even goes with working with brands on the YouTube side. Like if we start that relationship and it can be lighthearted, even over email, I prefer like Zoom calls and stuff like that. Face to face is always better, but even like a phone call or an email, if you can keep it lighthearted and natural. Some people don't want that and it gets really awkward, but when when you can keep it lighthearted and natural, once the work actually starts, it's just so much easier to keep going.
I think that really comes down to like, if you have a client that you can be lighthearted and natural and kind of playful with, and that's what you desire in a client, then that client is a good fit. But like if the client wants to work with you and then they don't want to be lighthearted, they don't want to be, they want it to be more formal and maybe a little bit more stiff and a little bit more traditional, you're getting a good indicator of like, oh, I might not be a good fit for, I could refer this client to somebody who does a more traditional kind of formal job, and that's going to end up working better for them, So it's really, yeah, I mean, it's a great indicator of like client fit.
It's also why you should always have some friends who do the same thing as you in your back pocket.
Be a part of the industry, because like I've got like 3 or 4 local video production companies or professionals who I know kind of what their vibe is, and I know if they're going to be a better fit for somebody than me. And like, I'm a huge advocate of there's plenty of work to go around. There's always going to be another client, so yeah. Referring somebody to somebody else because I know they're going to be a better fit, unless it was like a $30,000 contract that I have to walk away from now, it's not going to be a big, it's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's also going to make you look better, if you can be open and honest, and then you refer them to somebody who just does an amazing job for them. Right. Like it's always going to be back of the client's mind. Like this guy,
it's always going to be coming around. Yeah.
It's always going to be coming around. That's super important. Like don't force yourself into a project that you're not a good fit for, which is
so funny because like you don't want to do projects that you're not a good fit. You're going to hate it. You're going to hate it if you're not a good fit. It's so crazy. And it really just comes down to money and like scarcity, of like, but when will the next one come? And like, where's the money? And I need money. And, that's all it's coming down to. That's the only reason people are doing stuff they don't want to do is because they're afraid of the next thing not coming. But there is something really amazing that happens when you kind of are freed of that. And you can start to think of like, no, there's 20, there's 30,000 more that are coming. This one isn't the right fit for me.
Yeah. But part of getting to that point, I guess the first part of getting to that point is showing people exactly what it is you want to do and what you can do, which goes back to building a portfolio. I know for me in the very beginning, it felt like a kind of chicken and the egg situation. It's like, I know I need to show people what I can do, but I don't have any client work to show people what I can do. So how do I do that? I mean, with editing, it was a little bit easier. I went to ArtGrid and I downloaded some footage and I showed people how I can color grade and how I can cut a story together and all that stuff. And it's kind of, for editing, it's a little bit easier. But when you want to be behind the camera producing the videos, what are your suggestions for like starting to build that portfolio? I know that you mentioned, having a YouTube channel where you put stuff like that on. Can you go a little bit deeper into that whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, you really got to find the settings and scenarios that you want to be making more of and make those, whether, you're doing it for free because like you just need the stuff for your portfolio, or you are, shooting behind the scenes on stuff that you want to do more of, like, getting into the environment that way, but creating those environments and those settings, and then getting your camera out and capturing that stuff is the way to do it. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that's easy. Like, it takes money, it takes time, it takes buy-in from other people who don't necessarily have the vision, talent. It's not easy to do anything that I'm saying right now. Like, for me, right, honestly, one of the easiest things was like, okay, well then I'll just turn the camera on myself and I'll be my own talent and I'll get into my own fun adventure settings and I'll make videos about myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
It's like, well, easy for you to say. It was easier for me, and it was because I took out a lot of those variables of like having to rely on other people and having to pay other people to create the sort of videos that I wanted to keep on creating. But in a big way, like, we're always in this situation. Like, even now, when I think of my portfolio, I'm like, I don't really have anything that I want to show people in order to do more of that stuff. And right, like, that's not totally true. Like, there are videos on my channel that I really like and stuff that I'm comfortable showing people, but I don't have like a rock solid portfolio of like, this is the exact next project that I would want to get. So right, you're always trying to think of, what can I create that's gonna get me to the next step, and that never stops.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same boat, actually, and it's less on the freelance side, but one of the things that I'm really trying to get into is, narrative short films. I want to start producing narrative short films, and I don't know any actors. I can't afford to pay anybody, but I know at a certain point, if my projects, get bigger, I'm sure my first one's going to be a zero budget, like, who wants to try their hand at acting for free? I'll buy you a sandwich, but like, for now, I know at a certain point, if those productions get bigger, I'm going to need to try and find funding, and I need to start building that portfolio. And right now, it's literally me creating single scenes using myself as all the actors. I'm cloning myself in order to have multiple actors in the things. But it's, it's part of the deal. You got to do what you got to do in order to set yourself up for the work that you want to be doing. And it's not always a clear path, I feel like, but it's, you take the little steps and you end up getting there.
Love it. I love that.
I feel like we're kind of going around in circles here a little bit because, we talked about the pricing, we talked about getting the clients, and then we backtracked to building the portfolio. And I feel like now we're backtracking again because before you even do that, there's some hurdles. Well, there's some hurdles that you need, a constant hurdle, I guess, throughout your career, especially every time you pivot to a new thing. I mean, could you imagine if you were still doing skate videos, if that's the only thing you did, you'd be super confident with skate videos now, but you pivoted, you went to weddings, you went to commercial work, and every time you pivot and before you even get started, there's this huge hurdle of, I'm not good enough. My skills aren't good enough. My gear isn't good enough. And all this stuff, all the excuses for not getting started, which are the same excuses that YouTubers have, that photographers have. It's all that stuff. But like, how do you get past that hurdle? And then further down the line, how do you actually draw that line in the sand? Because there are times when it's not necessarily that you're not good enough, but maybe this is a project that you're not the best fit for. Like we've already discussed that. But so how do you get over that hurdle of I'm not good enough? And then also, how do you kind of tell the difference? Because sometimes it feels the same between I'm not good enough and I'm just not a good fit for this project.
One of the ways that I've gotten over the hurdle of I'm not good enough is to embrace the understanding that no, truly, I am not good enough at this skill of making videos. Like, truly, right, I am not. But not in like a negative way. In like because you're growing and you're learning and you have a good enough understanding of the art of it to know that you're not where you can be and will be, that you're not where you're going. And Ira Glass is, he has this great piece on the internet called The Gap. And it's just this idea that like when you're an amateur, you're good enough at it to know that your work isn't good enough yet. That takes like a good amount of understanding to even get to that point. You know, what he says is you really just need to keep going until you eventually get there, and know that you will eventually get there to the point where you're like, yeah, I can see the value in that work. But I'm going to say, even when you get there, even when you say like, okay, that is quote unquote good enough, there's still going to be something off in the horizon that you're not at yet that you want to go for. So in so many ways, it's just, you know, my mantra is just keep going, you know, and I don't think there's ever going to be a time in any of our lives as artists, or even business people where we're like, all right, now I'm good. Like I've done enough. I think it's just it's in our nature that we're always going to be pursuing and trying to achieve the next thing. So there's this whole mental like state of mind where I think we need to get comfortable living in, where even though we're not good enough, even though there's something on the horizon that we haven't hit yet, a goal that we're trying for, or whatever it is, we're still going to be able to take the time, sit back, think about the stuff that we're grateful for, think about the present moment and soak up the beauty of it, and like be comfortable living in this not good enough, something on the horizon, I don't have everything I want state, and be happy and joyful in this present state of mind. So got a little deep for you there.
I love it.
When it comes to, you know, when it comes to knowing like, am I not good enough for this, or is this just not a good fit? Again, like, no, you're not good enough for it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't necessarily take it. Like, you're growing, you're better than a lot of people would be at it. So whatever, that is what it is. But figuring out whether you're a good fit or not, it really just comes down to trial and error. Like I've done plenty of projects where I found out after the fact, like I wasn't a good fit for that. And you know, your instincts, I think, get better at that as you just stay in the game, as you just keep going. So the answer is the same for both. It's like, just keep going. If you weren't a good fit, great. Like, now you know that for next time. Still give them your best work that you possibly can, right, and you'll do better next time.
That's the thing. I mean, I love what you said about being an artist, that you just never feel like you're good enough. Like I haven't written my best song yet. I haven't made my best video yet. Like I'm not there. I know what I want my stuff to sound like. I know what I want my stuff to look like, and it's not there yet. But at the same time, you know, I am grateful for how far I've come. I mean, I was going back every so often. I go back and I watch like my first handful of vlogs, and I'm like, wow.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Me too. That's crazy.
I mean, real quick, like mental game to play with yourself. Imagine if you had written your best song, or imagine if you had recorded your best video. Like, that's not a good place to be. I don't want to be there. The human state is a pursuit of excellence, right? So we're never gonna, you know, you can judge my work when I'm gone. That's what I always say. You can judge my work when I'm gone, then you figure out which one was the best. But for me, I'm gonna be in constant pursuit of it until that time.
Ah, I love that. I absolutely love that. So let's talk, because you're still doing YouTube, you're still doing freelance work. You've got a wife and 2 kids at home, and I know that YouTube is very time consuming because I spend 40 hours a week doing YouTube, and I know that at least 40 hours a week doing YouTube, and I've done freelance work, and I know freelance work is really time consuming, and you know, having a wife and 2 kids is also very time consuming. How do you find the balance between all that? I mean, is there a balance? Can you actually find, but does balance even exist? Because I personally, you know, just to get my opinion in there, I personally think the answer is no. There's no such thing as balance. It's just whatever you're doing, you just got to be 100% there.
Yeah. That's really where I fall. I think of it less as balance and more as focus, you know? So it's like,
right,
what am I focusing on right now? What needs to be focused on? You know, is there an issue that I need to problem solve and focus on that thing and fix it? And then did all the time and effort it took me to focus on this thing and fix it, did that create an issue somewhere else? Okay, then I need to go over there and focus on that and fix that issue. And you know, when it comes to family, communication is just priority number 1, where you just need to be in constant communication of how are you feeling? What can I be doing to make sure that you're feeling prioritized and that you're not feeling like I'm working too much. Just the buy-in from your family, I think is very huge, and communicating about that buy-in. But no, I don't necessarily think that there's a balance. One of the things that I was actually just talking to my therapist about this conversation about balance. And one of the things that she helped me to realize was like, a way that I did help to create balance was by coming into an office, to this co-working space that I work out of, because it did just create like a physical separation in my mind between when I'm at home and when I'm at work. And so that did help to create a balance. So working from home, having a home studio is definitely something that like blurs the lines of the balance between work and not work, you know? So that's one of the ways is getting out of the house and coming into a different place to work that I've been able to find balance. But focus is more where I fall on the balance focus spectrum.
Yeah, it almost seems backwards, doesn't it? Like you would think that balance means like being able to do a whole bunch of stuff at the same time, but really like the way to, at least, like I said, I don't necessarily believe that balance actually exists, but the way to, I guess the goal isn't to find balance between all these things, but to feel balanced, like internally, I guess, is the actual goal. And that's the actual problem that people are trying to solve without knowing it. And the way to do that is actually to find ways to separate all of the things that you're trying to balance. Like even for me, I still have a home studio, but it wasn't too long. Just a few short months ago, my home studio was in the dining room where there are no walls and no door. And just the act of being able to get into this room where I can close the door, it's so much, it feels like I'm at work right now. As soon as I open that door, it's like, oh, I'm home. You know?
Yeah. The physical space and physical separation, I think, is much more important than we realize, you know? So, and that's a case in point right there. So that's good stuff.
Yeah. So we've talked about, all right, you've got your portfolio. You started putting some stuff together and some examples of what you want to be doing for other people. You're kind of at the point where you're like, all right, we need to start getting clients. You've gotten your client to say yes. What does the workflow, like the actual workflow, look like from there? You know, pre-production, production, editing, all that stuff. Like, how does all that work? Because I think a lot of people, I know I was like, I'm gonna do freelance work, but I never really thought past getting the job. You know,
right.
Getting the job and showing up with the camera.
And I'll figure it out from there. Right.
Exactly. Can you give us an idea of like what a typical workflow looks like for a freelance job?
It really is so different for every person. You know, every personality is going to need a different kind of system and structure and like way to make things work in a way that is like joyful and works well with like who they are, you know? So I'm a very loosey-goosey type person, and it bites me often where like I didn't create a good enough plan in pre-production, and now we're going to end up shooting an extra half day because I didn't plan it out right. But, you know, for me, that's part of it. And I'm just like, I don't really enjoy sticking to a very prescribed plan. So if I end up taking an extra half day, like as long as it's a project and people that I enjoy working with, which mostly I try to work with people and projects that I enjoy, that's not actually a bad thing. It's like, no, I actually like shooting. You know, it's cool that we're kind of out here again and we get more natural takes and more opportunities to create something that we're really proud of. So I really do think the workflow is very different, but very generally, you know, you land the gig, you get your 50% deposit or whatever.
Yeah, don't forget that deposit.
No, that's so it's crucial, so crucial. But also for me, not getting entirely paid in full is also crucial, because when it comes to post-production, knowing that there's this invoice that I'm going to be able to send once I get the video done is like a really strong motivation for me. So not the full video in as a deposit, not the full price as a deposit, but some deposit, 30%, 50%. Then making a basic plan. I normally start with the client and say, what are the main messages that you want to communicate with this piece of content? They send it over. I look at it, maybe it's in its final form at that point because they did a good job, or maybe I need to tweak it. Then ideally having some sort of get together with the client in person or at least on Zoom, where you can start to feel a little bit more comfortable with each other, thinking through what's the gear I'm going to need, where the locations that we're going to need to be, how much time is it going to take. I mean, probably you've figured that out because you've already quoted for it, but how are you going to separate out your time at your different locations that you planned for? Then you go and shoot it. You try to get as much as you possibly can in the bag, locked in. And then at that point for me, I like to the quicker I do it, the better. Like if I get home and I start editing it right away, I'm going to have a better time of it than if I wait for like a week or 2 weeks. Sometimes that does mean that I get my first cut done extremely fast. And if the person who I'm working with hasn't ever worked with a person like me, that might be confusing to them about why I did it so fast. And is it somehow less valuable because it didn't take me as much time to do it? I've tried to really get to a point where I explain to clients that speed is incredibly valuable and that I work very fast and that's actually a valuable trait. But every once in a while I run into a thing where I'll just sit on the video then for like 4 or 5 days, go back, look at it, make sure I think it's still good, make sure there's no more tweaks. And oftentimes there are some tweaks that I can make even before I send revision, the first cut. Send it to them, ask for a list of revisions, remind them that any revisions after this first round is going to cost them $800. Like revision round 2 will cost $800. So whatever you want me to fix on this thing, we got to get this thing locked now to save you money, because revisions just kill me, dude. Like I can't.
Yeah.
There needs to be some sort of price tag on revisions, because a client doesn't realize the amount of effort it takes to switch your train of thought, open up a project, and make a couple little quick edits. Like that amount of effort is insane. So
yeah,
they're not going to think, oh, I should tell Cody every single little fix that I want to fix right now. They're going to think, let's just work on the big thing and then we'll get all that little stuff out of the way at some point in the future. Well, that is like mind-bendingly terrible for me to think like that. So you gotta direct them in the way that you're going to work best, So yeah, get that list of revisions if there are any. A lot of the clients that I work with nowadays, like I'll never forget my biggest project that I ever had in terms of like cost. I think it was a $13,000 45-second video. Crushed to shoot, like felt great about it, got back, edited it, sat on it for I think 3 or 4 days. Or no, actually no, that one was one where I had communicated like, let's get this thing up immediately. Shot it, edited it, sent it the next day. I think that one actually had 2 rounds of revisions included. I was like, let me know if you're, what the revisions are for the first one. They wrote back, it's like, it's great. Posted it, it's done, invoiced them. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you work with clients and you set the expectations in a way that they are not going to mess with your, like, why would I change it? Like obviously what you made is the thing that we wanted, So don't ever discredit that, but get the revisions done, send it over and invoice them. If they come back and they say, hey, we were thinking the ending could be this, or could you slap this on? Say, yep, would be happy to do it. Just a reminder, that's gonna, that will add an additional $800 to the final invoice as previously discussed, and they'll be cool with that. And then opening up a project for $800 is not a big deal.
No.
It's open up a project when you were already on to the next thing. Yeah, the $800 makes that pain go away. So that's my workflow.
No, I like what you said about charging for revisions. That is so key. Even on free work.
Yeah.
I think especially on free work.
Especially on free work.
If you're doing something for free, you need to let them know, like, look, yes, I'm doing this for free. This is, I mean, you actually have a very specific advice for working for free. And I know a lot of people, one, don't want to work for free at all. Those are kind of the two schools of thought.
Like,
totally
right,
understandable.
If you can make that work for you, then 100% don't ever work for free ever again.
Yeah. But there really are 2 schools of thought, especially when you're starting out. You know, is one, you know, some people feel like they want to work for free in order to build their portfolio. Maybe they don't feel comfortable charging for work that they don't really know how to do yet, and or whatever it is. But you actually have very specific advice for that. I know you've talked about it in one of your YouTube videos, but could you go over that a little bit?
Yeah, the first thing is make sure that you quote them and give them, you know, you give them a quote and you tell them you're getting 100% discount, because you need them to A, know what it's going to cost to work with you in the future, but B, if somebody comes to them and says, hey, I love that video, who did you use? You don't want them to have no point of reference for, oh yeah, Cody makes valuable work and it costs about $3,000 per video or whatever it is to work with Cody, you know? So, give them an invoice, tell them that there's 100% discount, and then be very clear, whether it's in a contract, like a legal contract, or just bullet points in an email, be very clear about the scope of the work. Because you do want them to enjoy this process. Like, you do want them to get a video that they end up loving and using and referring you work from, again, knowing how much it costs to work with you. You can even say something like, just so you know, I don't ever work for free. I'm just hyped on this project. If anybody comes to you, would appreciate you not telling them that I did this for free. You don't have to say that. If that makes you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to say that. So anyway, yeah, bullet point out the scope, exactly what it is you're gonna be doing, exactly what it is you need them to be doing, exactly the amount of input that they're going to have. Like you just said, you know, tell them that revisions are going to actually cost money. If they don't get it, if you don't get it locked on cut 1 or cut 2 or whatever it is you decide, it's going to cost money to do revisions past that. And again, not because you're trying to get money out of them, but because you're trying to get them to focus their energy in a way that is going to create the product that they want in the time frame, in the scope that you want. So the charging for revisions thing isn't about trying to get more money from your clients. It's just about trying to get to the point of a finished video in the time frame and in the way that you want to get there, you know? So, and it can be done. Like, I've done it 30 or 40 times now, where it's like you get there when you want to get there and you're happy and they're happy. Like, that's all that's about. So those are definitely the main things when it comes to working for free. I think the last thing is just, you know, back at the beginning, make sure that it is a project that you can see the benefit of having something like this in your portfolio, and you're going to be able to give it the time and effort required to make sure that this is something that you show to people and you get more work like this that you're excited about getting. Like, in other words, if you don't like doing hour-long corporate conference panel discussions, then don't do that for free. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not hyped to show somebody your hour-long, perfectly cut, multicam clip panel discussion and do that for the rest of your life, or do that for pay, there's no point in doing it for free just to help somebody out, you know? Only do stuff for free that you're hyped on and that you want to get paid for.
Right. Projects that are going to bring you closer to your end game.
Yep.
That's really, really good advice. Something you said earlier when we were talking about revisions, about that $13,000 for 45 seconds, and they were just like, looks great, send it in the mail. Like, those are the kind of clients you want. But have you found that they typically only come at that higher price tag? Because, you know, you do see all those memes like all over the place, you know, $200 versus 20. So do I.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
I resonate with those memes so much. And it's just like, when you underprice yourself, you're not just not getting paid enough for what you're doing. You're also opening yourself up to this crazy can of worms of all this stuff that you don't want to have to deal with. Like, literally, do not price lower than what you know you should be pricing, and realize that what you think you know you should be pricing is also too low. And that will never not be the case, okay? Always raise your prices.
That's uncomfortable, though, right? Like, I know the first time I raised my prices, even on you know, a brand deal on my channel, like, that was super uncomfortable. That was not even scary. It wasn't scary. It was actual physical discomfort. how do you get past, I mean, other than like, I guess the answer is just do it, you know, because it's really the only way to get past discomfort. But what,
right.
how do you?
mean, really, like the discomfort leaves after a certain amount of experience, right? So like the reason you and I can sit here and say, raise your prices is because we've done it and we've seen the fruits of it and like what happens as a result of it.
Yeah.
I'm past my time on this conference room, so I don't want to be putting someone in the same position as as somebody else put me in yesterday. But yeah, so the what I was gonna say is, yes, you do have to just do it, but I mean, take our word for it. You just don't realize how good it is until you've done it. And you also just don't realize how valuable what you're doing is. You just don't. You don't realize it. And also you also probably haven't thought about like the thousands of things that could go wrong that are going to cost a lot of money. And the reason that you need to be charging more because you need that money in the bank right now so you can cross those bridges when you come to them. Whether that's a lawsuit, whether that's needing to go to a certain location to get a certain thing for a certain, whatever it is, there's an infinite number of reasons that you need more money and that what you're charging can be higher because of those needs that you don't necessarily know about yet. So yeah, just raise them up, just get it done, just do it, just go for it. And hit the ground running.
Nice. All right. I know your time is up, but I think we've covered. If I can edit this thing together in a cohesive way.
It's not going to be easy. Like we've been recording for an hour and 10 minutes. Like,
holy crap.
Turning this thing into anything less than like 30 minutes, I think is going to be extremely hard. So
it's going to be,
my friend.
Yeah, it'll happen. But is there anything going on that you want to let people know about? Now is your I forgot to ask you that last time. So I'm giving you the chance now.
Yeah, no, I'm hyped on what you're doing. Collaborate, get out there, make stuff. No Small Creators Facebook group, a bunch of other creators, people doing stuff in this, in the same vein in this industry. If you want a community around you that can help support in just being there together, that's a Facebook group, No Small Creator that I believe in. But yeah, just get out there and make stuff. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you doing this.